My name's Makai Green, and you're listening to The Simple Idea, a podcast about taking action on the things that matter to you. In each episode, you get to hear from people across the world discuss how they acted on their simple idea and tackled projects that gave them personal fulfillment. Now let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Simple Idea. Today I'm sitting down with Josh Fenn. He is a filmmaker and digital content creator based in Portland, Oregon. Josh, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad myself. Really pumped for this conversation. I feel like it's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. I've actually never been on a podcast before, so this will be a good trial run. Hopefully, I'm not too mumbly for you.
Oh, no, trust me. You're fine. I'm still trying to find my voice myself. And it's funny that you say that because last week I actually recorded an episode with somebody else, and it was their first time on a podcast too.
Nice.
Yeah, Sean Lay, if you want to check him up. Check him out, excuse me. I'll link him to you after the episode. He works on finance and stuff like that.
Oh, but, cool, yeah.
Second time hearing that, really cool. I'm glad that I'm, the first person to have you onto a podcast here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So with that out of the way, I kind of want to do a brief introduction of who you are, kind of give like a very brief background about some of the things that you've done and kind of just your experiences, just to, fill in the listeners here.
Yeah, absolutely. But so my name is Josh Fenn, and I am a YouTuber, and I also have a business doing freelance videography and photography. And that's about it.
Okay, so with that very brief introduction out of the way, I kind of want to rewind. I don't know how long, but you'll know this question or the answer to this question. I want to ask you what your initial simple idea was to get you started on the path that you're on now. What was that first thing that clicked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a long and complicated story, but I would say the simple idea behind everything was essentially just finding a way to live off of my creativity and, finding a job that utilizes that and being able to work for myself and be creative and still earn a living.
Okay. Were you exposed to that at a younger age, or was that something that you kind of experienced or learned about later in life?
I wasn't necessarily exposed to the idea of, being able to earn a living, but I've always been very heavily exposed to creative things. I was a musician for my whole childhood too. So, I started playing guitar when I was about 6 years old. I was in band, all through middle school and high school, played a lot of different instruments, and I actually, went to school for graphic design. And so I've kind of always been following different creative passions my whole life. But, up until, the last, 10, 15 years or so is kind of when I realized, I might be able to figure out a way to earn a living doing so.
Okay. So do you think that all those other creative endeavors that you had were kind of very brief ideas of what you might want to do, but what you're doing now is more of a long-term option, or are you still exploring your creative side?
I definitely think that this is my long-term option, but I will say all of the other things in the past, it was a great learning experience, and all of the things that I did in the other creative fields still come into play now. So it's kind of a lot of what I used to do shaped what I'm doing now. And in my head, it's all a lot more similar. It might annoy a few, true purist, filmmakers or videographers, but it's it all kind of scratches that same creative itch for me. So this definitely, to put it a little bluntly, this is kind of the most financially viable path I've tried in my creative passions. So that's the one I'm sticking to.
Okay, and it probably still allows you to bring in money yet still express creativity. So
yeah, absolutely
makes sense to go down that route.
Yeah, and I do feel like the filmmaking and video aspects, I kind of get to use all of the creative. There's a lot of with sound design, there's a lot of the music type of things that play in with that, and with graphic design, a lot of color theory and composition, things like that play an important role in video. So I feel like it's all kind of tied together in my head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So going off of that, and I was watching a few of your videos not too long ago. From what I understand, you started a graphic design company and you were in a band at one point that sort of toured the country. Can you just fill me in on this? Because I'm just very curious. This isn't so like based off of creativity or anything, but like I'm just curious, like how did all this happen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of start with the music. I was, like I said, I started playing guitar at a really early age and was in band in school. I started a few different bands while I was in middle school and high school. And right after I graduated high school, I had connected with a few friends and joined. It was a post-rock band called Good Weather for Airstrikes. And it was indie post-rock, if you're familiar at all with that genre. But yes, definitely. So it was a little bit after I graduated high school, I had connected with them and we had started making music and just had a really great time. We were pretty active for about 5 years. And we did get to tour the country, but that probably makes us sound a little bit fancier than what we were. But we played, all over. I'm originally from Detroit. So we played all over Michigan and, got to tour in the Southeast and kind of along the East Coast a few times. And, we were definitely successful in some ways, we had one big album release. They got some good press and things, but eventually it was just kind of we had to make a decision if we were just going to live out of our van and keep touring or if we were going to kind of hang it up and, start making some money and move out of our parents' houses and all that sort of stuff. So we had a really great time. It was just, even at our best, we were lucky to break even with, gas money and stuff with touring. So unfortunately, it just didn't pan out quite as well as we had hoped. We were good musicians, but bad business folks.
Okay, I see.
But
you ever would have got your big break if you kept with it a little bit longer?
I think about it. I don't know if it would have ever happened. I will say, though, now, after diving into social media and learning a lot more about marketing, if I could go back now with the tools and skill set I have, I think we probably could have made it work much easier than we did. But, you live and you learn and, all that stuff now has played roles in the decisions I make. So that was, kind of with the band and along those lines too, part of, wanting to keep the band viable. I went to school, in high school and college, took classes on graphic design and really enjoyed that and started up kind of a little side gig, freelance company doing projects just for small local businesses and had really hoped that, I would be able to do music and graphic design on the side, and the graphic design would kind of fund the continuation of the touring and recording. But eventually, the space kind of changed with, at least from my experience with graphic design nowadays, you pretty much need to be a web designer if you want to earn any kind of real money, and that just wasn't really my skill set. So I still do design projects here and there and do a lot of designing for my own, personal companies and projects, but just never really learned that coding side of the web design, so it just kind of hung up my hat after a while.
See, it's funny that you say that because I'm still in school at the moment, but even with the major that I'm in, they're having me learn like basic HTML and CSS just to like alter how websites look and how they function and whatnot. And I'm a communication major, like I'm not even a computer scientist or anything in engineering or anything like that.
Oh, that stuff's just so important these days and plays just as big of a role. People want someone that can code and design and do all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah. And they're definitely useful like skills to have, but if it's not what you're into, then that's a totally different thing altogether. Yep. But it kind of just sounds like you had a few pretty cool things going on, but just maybe the timing was a bit off.
Yeah. It really, to put it bluntly, it was just a matter of finances mostly. And, I'm a big advocate for, failing and learning from your failures. And so those things, might sound kind of negative as I'm talking about them out loud, but they were definitely, I learned so much from them and, some of the best years of my life and tons and tons of stories from, being on the road and things like that. So
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, failure kind of brings growth. So I think that's still a win at the end of the day. You took
absolutely.
some stuff away from those experiences, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so over the past several months, you've kind of gone through a transition period of working for yourself. Can you kind of break down some of the highs and lows that were associated with you moving on to being your own boss?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a heck of a year. Yeah, I just crossed the 1 year mark of going full time with the YouTube and freelancing, and yeah, lots of highs. I've been absolutely loving the freedom in my schedule and just being able to kind of fully dedicate my time and attention to the projects I want to work on, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of eliminating some of the noise and the stuff I didn't care about. And yeah, so having that freedom is great. And I love working from home. I have a very, if anyone follows me or anything, I have a very adorable cat named Wolfie. And so he's my office mate, and we get to hang out all day. And, I get to, stay at home, and I get to have, a dedicated office space now to create YouTube videos, which is great. And yeah, I absolutely love all of the freedom that comes along with it. But the as far as some of the downs, it has been I did jump ship and go full time a little bit earlier than I probably should have if I wanted to be really smart and safe and secure. So it's kind of take this with a grain of salt. But the all of with everything, I would say the financial insecurity has probably been the biggest down. I'm at the point in my career now where I'm pretty much taking on, any and every project I can get my hands on. So it gets tough sometimes. You land one big job and you're happy and you're like, all right, I've got my bills covered for these couple of months and all is great. But, that project ends and, it's on to worrying about the next one. It kind of feels sometimes like you're, job hunting indefinitely, which, so some of the financial insecurity aspects can be a bit tough, but yeah, the highs definitely outweigh the lows, I'd say.
Yeah, so it's definitely a grind from what it sounds like. Definitely not an easy move at all. Do you think what's the long-term goal with you working for yourself? Like, are you trying to pursue YouTube a little bit more and make a living off of that, or is it kind of just like, what's your headspace with that?
Yeah, I would definitely say YouTube has been my main focus, especially the last several months, but definitely moving on to the future. I would really like to have YouTube be, enough income for me to focus on it fully. And it's not necessarily my intention to solely do YouTube. But yeah, definitely I would like to be able to have that freedom to dedicate fully to personal projects on YouTube is kind of my ideal long-term goal. But yeah, like I said, part of that is just being able to have that freedom because I would like to get more into some longer form documentary type of work, but some of that stuff is only going to come with more financial security and time. And yeah, YouTube's definitely my long-term goal, or whatever the platform is, just to be able to work on personal projects is kind of the ideal.
Yeah, kind of ease that financial burden. I get
it. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's a day in the life like for you, from like morning to you sleeping, I guess? Like, how do you go about being productive? What are some of the things that you do?
Yeah, this is actually some good timing for productivity. I have a video coming out. It'll be out on the 31st. Not sure what your podcast schedule is, but for tips for working from home without going crazy is nice. The tentative title right now. Working on that one, but yeah, I've become a very early riser, part of which by choice, part of which for a very hungry cat that wants breakfast. But I tend to wake up around 5 or 6 in the morning, and I just kind of jump right into it. I make my coffee and then kind of sit at my desk and kind of handle what I call admin work, answering emails, answering comments, posting on social media, kind of handling all that stuff for the first few hours of the day. And then usually once that's all done, it'll be about 10 or 11. I'll work out and have breakfast. And I tend to be very regimented especially in that first half of the day for my routines. Helps keep me on track with everything. And, a lot of those smaller little tasks can fall by the wayside a lot easier than intended. If you let slip a day or two, and next thing you know, you have, a few hundred emails to sort through, and you just don't want to do it. So I like to stay on top of that stuff. And, so kind of the first half of my day is all of that. And then after that, I usually have kind of one project I'm working on at the time, whether it be a YouTube video or a project for a client, something like that. So I kind of have that day split half and half.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to rewind slightly. I'm a huge advocate for micro wins. So like starting off your day, like kind of do the micromanaging parts, like checking your email or, making your bed, things like that. Because those can kind of add up to, kind of propel you to take on bigger tasks throughout your day. It's definitely good momentum. So it seems like you kind of have that on lock. It's definitely awesome to see that you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely am someone that if I don't stay on top of it, it's easy to kind of get overwhelmed by things and you just want to give up, or you want to go, sit on the couch and watch TV all day or something like that. Yeah. Having all those things that you get to accomplish early on has been a big plus for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. Because I know if I miss a day or two, it might go to a week before I start up again, and then I'm just really out of everything that I'm doing. I'm just on a slump. I mean? So. Yeah. You have to, you have to really take your time with everything, and just go day by day. Because if that stuff builds up, you just want to quit. And it's, I think the more important part that people lose sight of sometimes is, it's not necessarily about, doing the absolute best or biggest thing you can do, but, it's about being able to pick back up after the failures or just keep going when you don't want to. That persistence is key. So how did you go about finding client work starting out? Did you question your abilities along the way? Like, was there ever a sense of self-doubt? Or were you kind of confident yet cautious when approaching freelancing?
Great question. Definitely early on and kind of still now, I think the biggest thing that helped me from kind of getting from 0 to 1, and I know it can be really daunting for a lot of freelancers to get those early clients. The best thing that helped for me was just really utilizing my network. And I know that kind of can have a negative connotation for a lot of folks. It doesn't necessarily have to be, bothering your friends or family to hire you and give you money for projects, but kind of using your networks in a sense. For some specific examples, my wife is a amazing hairstylist, and she usually will be chit-chatting with a lot of her clients about oh, what do you do, what does your husband do for a living? And so she's usually telling folks what I do for a living. I was able to actually get a job with iHeartMedia doing shooting one of their events, and that was a really, really great opportunity, and they've already reached out for the same event for this year to do another repeat. And another good example of that, I had some friends that lived in the same apartment building as I did, and he works for a local environmental nonprofit. And when it came time for them to do a yearly video series with an award show that they put on, he remembered that I did video and reached out to me to see if I was interested. So I think that is a really important key. It doesn't necessarily have to be bothering your friends and family to hire you, but just making sure that everyone that knows what you do for a living. And so next time it comes up in their conversations, they're going to remember and hopefully recommend you to whoever they're speaking with or whoever they know.
Okay, awesome. So basically, if you're starting from 0, start with your community and just kind of network, let people know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems so simple.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's definitely a lot easier said than done. But yeah, if you can kind of get past that initial, awkward or embarrassing feelings that you have, being a bit of a beginner, just trust in your abilities and don't be afraid to reach out.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Great advice, and it's not something I would have thought of or I feel like most people, but like I said, it's definitely simple. But I imagine the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before I went full time, I actually spent the last 6 years selling mattresses to pay the bills while I built everything up. And, commission sales is definitely a way to kind of get your feet wet in selling yourself for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, moving away from that question a little bit and kind of moving into your experience with self-doubt or just worrying about the opinions of other people. For many people starting out, it can kind of be intimidating, and they can kind of feel a sense of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What can people do to kind of push back those negative feelings? And kind of like what can they do to start what they care about is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, definitely a good question. It's a lot easier said than done, and I'm going to give some advice, but I still deal with, imposter syndrome and, lacking confidence at times and comparing myself with others too much. And, all of the cliche things are things I still deal with. But an important thing for me that really I remind myself of, part of, I actually skipped this earlier in my answer, but part of me getting started with video and getting started with YouTube, I lost about 140 pounds a few years back. And that was a big kind of life lesson for me that's translated into just about every other area of life. Putting yourself out there for a goal and making yourself uncomfortable, the benefits of doing that, if you put the work behind it and actually follow through it just kind of helps. You just want to keep going and kind of trust yourself. And when you're in doubt, just kind of keep executing and keep working at things.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And I was actually going to ask you about your weight loss story, because I saw that video not too long ago too. I'm just curious, like, can you kind of walk me through and everybody else who's listening, your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're on my YouTube channel was originally a weight loss channel, and I kind of shifted gears over time. The longer I made videos, the more I started to care about the production side over the weight loss. But yeah, originally it took me about 4 years, and I tried just about every different type of weight loss method. Lowering carbs and exercising more or less. And at the end of the day, all of the crazy strategies out there, it was just a matter of eating less and moving more, but mostly just eating fewer calories. I found that calorie counting and tracking your macronutrients was really beneficial for setting myself up for maintenance. After all the different methods, it's kind of just the simple, easy one was the best in my experience. It's just a matter of follow through, just like we were talking about earlier. It's the same with weight loss. It's a lot easier said than done, but if you can put in the work behind the goal, if you stick with it long enough, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
All right, awesome, and definitely inspiring stuff to hear.
Yeah,
and this is a little bit different from what I just asked you too, but kind of give the best answer you can here. I'm not expecting like a solid thing, but what has been the most like meaningful project that you've had a chance to work on so far?
Yeah. A couple of things come to mind. I would say YouTube as a whole, as one to be meaningful. I absolutely love creating for YouTube. I love my community, and people hate on YouTube for being negative. But I have a really nice positive community in my audience, and in my experience, for the most part, people are very nice and accepting and encouraging. And so I love having the freedom to work on whatever I want, and just the fact that people are there and wanting to see that is super inspiring to me and makes me want to keep going. So that's definitely kind of one side of it. I would say the other side, outside of YouTube, the most meaningful work I would say I've done is over the past year, I've gotten into both video and photos, working with some animal shelters and like animal fostering agencies. And it's been just so much more rewarding than I ever imagined it would be. Especially there's a fostering nonprofit called Meow Village that is out of Aurora, Oregon. And they're all volunteer based. It's just a bunch of nice old cat ladies. And I don't want to say, they're not all old. Yeah. I don't want if they hear this, I don't want them to be, I don't want them to feel bad. But it's just a bunch of like nice, sweet old cat ladies. And they're so thankful for me being able to go out and take photos of all these foster cats. But seeing, going and meeting all of these cats that need homes and taking pictures and kind of getting to know them and seeing their stories and seeing them find, their forever homes and all of that has been super, super fun and rewarding. I would say that's definitely been the most meaningful. And, I've done, luckily, my first year of clients has all been pretty meaningful work in my eyes, doing, like I said, I've done a few projects with some different animal shelters in the area and have worked with some environmental nonprofits as well on some, kind of promotional documentary type of videos. And, so I've been trying to keep that in mind. I put on my website, meaningful content for authentic people. And, I try and stick through and work with people that, have views that align with mine and, people that are trying to make an actual positive impact on the world.
Yeah, definitely keep on that route, because just from watching your videos, I can tell like you put a lot of attention to detail in your videos, and I think they're really well crafted, and they kind of just have like a warm vibe to them all together. So I think you're doing well in that department.
Thank you.
Yeah. Definitely a very nice channel, very pleasant and organic vibes for those of you who are listening. Definitely go check them out. We'll talk about that in just a minute too.
Yeah.
But huge fan of your video. Really, really talented work.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been a fun learning experience, and I feel like if anyone appreciates a nice, calm, quiet, relaxing demeanor, they will hopefully enjoy my videos. That's kind of what I try and bring to the table. Just a few minutes of peace in everyone's hectic days.
Yeah, without a doubt. So moving from there, where do you kind of want to be in your personal life and career, of course, 5 years from now? Where do you want to be?
Hopefully still creating for YouTube as long as it's still around and as long as my audience will have me. Like I mentioned earlier, I really just hope to be able to earn, a safe enough full-time income from creating with my own personal projects, whether that be from YouTube or other platforms. I have some aspirations for a couple of bigger documentary sort of projects that I want to get to work on in the future. So I really hope for all of that. And, also at the core of that, a little more financial stability. Like I talked about with getting started with freelancing, it's been a lot of fun, but definitely some stress with, getting things up and running. So hopefully just a little bit more financial security, which will in turn, give me a bit more freedom to continue working on my personal projects, whether it be on YouTube or whatever platform will have me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just keep hustling. I have no doubt that you'll definitely get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of wraps up all the main questions that I had for you with this conversation. But what I like to do here towards the end of the interview, I usually ask the guests that I have on a few quick questions. They're meant to be pretty light, not too serious, and kind of just I can get to know you a little bit better outside of just the content you're creating.
Sounds good.
So the first quick question that I have for you today is, are there any creators that you kind of want to collaborate with on video at all? Or maybe not even on video, but just any really meaningful projects?
Yeah. I will say with this, I'm definitely a pretty introverted lone wolf sort of person. So I haven't done too much collaborating in the past. I love my solo time, but there are definitely, a few people, whether it's, people I would like to interview or just get to meet and work with in any capacity, like Kevin Rose is someone, I don't know if you're familiar. I've followed his. Not, no. Oh, okay. He, I don't know if you know the website dig.com. I don't think it's around anymore, but he was actually on Tech TV and G4, if anyone used to watch cable in the early 2000s. He had couple of tech shows on there and started dig.com, and he's a venture capitalist now and works with a few apps. He's just a very fascinating guy, very similar calming mentality. I would like to think I have, kind of a similar vibe to him, but he actually moved to Portland recently. So I'm hoping at some point to be able to connect, whether it be in an interview or in some capacity, because I've followed his story for quite a long time and definitely draw a lot of inspiration from him. But outside of that, there are a couple of YouTubers that I really love. Thomas Heaton is a landscape photographer. Collaborating with him would be amazing. He just goes on these incredible trips, and I admire his dedication to, he'll fly, across the world and spend 4 days to take a single photo, waiting for the right time and moment. And so I really appreciate his craft and his demeanor as well. And then also a couple of filmmaking channels that I would love to at some point work with. Indie Mogul, if anyone's familiar, they've recently rebooted back up. They have a ton of really great info for anyone that might be wanting to learn about filmmaking, and they have really great info on the big production side of things, which you don't see too much of on YouTube. And on that note as well, there's his channel is called This Guy Edits, is another person. It's his name is Sven, just this middle-aged guy that he edits. It's his slogan is "Welcome to This Guy Edits," where this guy edits. He's just super straightforward. He edits a lot of full-length features, though. So I actually did a lot of studying and feel like I learned a lot from his videos. Watching someone edit feature-length films is you learn a lot compared to just editing YouTube videos or seeing other people edit YouTube videos. I feel like that really taught me a lot about timing and editing. Both all inspiring people I'd love to work with at some point.
All right, awesome response for that. I haven't heard of any of those people, with the exception of the first guy. What was his name? You said Thomas Rose?
Kevin Rose.
Kevin Rose. Okay.
Yep.
So Kevin Rose, I have heard of dig.com.
He
way back in the day.
Exactly. He founded Dig and then ended up falling out to Reddit. But he's done just a lot of really cool projects over the years. So
I'm definitely gonna research him. He looks like a pretty interesting person. But everybody you just mentioned.
Yeah, he has. Kevin Rose has a really incredible podcast, just called The Kevin Rose Show. So check that out if you haven't.
All right, awesome. I'm always looking for new podcasts, so I'm definitely gonna check that out in just a moment too.
Absolutely.
So, moving on from there, what single piece of information has altered the way that you live your life?
This, I'd say the best thing is, I don't know if it's a single piece, but rounding back to my weight loss, with successfully losing that weight kind of taught me, if you want something and you're willing to put in the work behind it and continue and keep working at it, you'll reach your goal. So I've been kind of operating with that mindset and mentality for all of the other things in my life. And so far, it's gotten me pretty much everything I have to be thankful for in my life. So, just learning that persistence and follow through and just kind of trusting in yourself that whatever you want, if you're willing to put in that work behind it, you'll most likely get there at some point.
Yeah, hard work and persistence definitely does, where I would say that it's probably the right route.
Yeah.
To get anywhere you want to be, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you do something for long enough, let's say 10 years, and you're not successful by that point, I'm not really sure what happened. Maybe it just didn't work out, but, at that point you become an expert. You become somebody who, has seen their fair share of uphill battles and successes.
Yeah. And all those failures are, learning and growth is just, failure essentially. And that's an important thing to remember and keep in mind.
All right. Awesome. I like that piece of information, actually.
Thank you.
So, last and final quick question for you, before we wrap things up. If you could visit any place in the world at this very moment in time, where would you go?
Ooh, tough question. I would say Ireland is one of the first ones that come to mind.
Ireland, okay.
Yeah, something about the scenery and everything over there just seems very beautiful. I don't know exactly my genealogy, but I know I'm a good part Irish as well. But yeah, it just seems like a nice, beautiful place. I love the gloomy weather coming. It's very similar to Portland from what I've heard. But I love that nice, those rolling hills and cliffs and bluffs and stuff. So I'd say either Ireland, or I've always wanted to visit London. Seems like a very cool place.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to visit London over this past summer. I studied abroad there.
Nice.
And
that's awesome.
Ireland was one of the places that I wanted to go. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Ireland and Wales. I didn't hit any of those places. I only stayed in London, and then I got a chance to go to Amsterdam too. And then I also went to Cambridge in England.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've never been outside of North America, unfortunately. I absolutely love to travel, and yeah, so I pretty much anywhere I'm able to go, I would love to go. Traveling of any kind is always fun.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't really matter where you go at the end of the day, because a new place is usually, exciting as long as it's safe and, not too dangerous.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Ireland's definitely a great place. Definitely get some good photographs there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I feel like this is a good place to wrap up our conversation. I really enjoyed it. And before we head out, I kind of just want to see if I can help you out with any things that you're doing. Is there anything that you want to plug, or any projects, merch, videos that you're working on that you want to share with us?
Nothing too specific. I would just encourage everyone, go check out my YouTube channel. I cover a pretty wide variety of content, but mostly focused around, like minimalism and personal development, along with some tech and filmmaking mixed in there as well. So kind of essentially just all of my interests. But yeah, if you like that kind of calm demeanor and some good visuals and stuff, hopefully you can check that out. And yeah, have some good upcoming videos that are pretty relevant to this conversation. So make sure and stay tuned for those. But yeah.
All right, so I'll link your channel and your website down below, and if your video happens to be out at the time that I, post this, then I'll also include the video too.
Sounds good.
One last thing, forgot to ask you this earlier. I watched your pour-over video for how you make coffee.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
your preferred method for making coffee? I meant to ask you this earlier, by the way.
Oh yeah, we can. I can talk about high quality beverages for a whole podcast. But yeah, that's definitely my current favorite. I've been a big AeroPress user for about 8 years or so, maybe longer than that even. But I recently got a Chemex for Christmas, and I just had a blast testing new methods. I really like it. The AeroPress is great, but I've been drinking more than one cup of coffee in the morning, so it gets a little irritating sometimes to make it cup by cup. So the Chemex kind of solved that problem for me. Very, very different, very, very different finished products, even using, the same water, same coffee, very different taste. But yeah, that's my preferred method right now for sure. But the AeroPress is great too.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just now starting to get into coffee. Like, I've always drank it and whatnot, but I started experimenting with a French press, and I feel like the coffee tastes a little bit different in a French press compared to just like pour over or drip. I'm not really sure if that's the case or not.
Yeah, I don't have any sort of super refined palate or anything, but yeah, every brewing method will yield such different results. It's pretty crazy, and it's a great way too if you're on a budget. You can make crappy coffee taste pretty great if you brew it properly. So. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the AeroPress or the Chemex over a French press, but they're all really great. I think anything's better than using K-cups or a cheap drip machine.
Yeah, I've tried them in the past, and not a huge fan. Usually got to like doctor it up with like sugar and a bunch of cream and stuff for it to taste half decent. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. Just wanted to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, definitely.
For anybody who's listening, definitely check his channel out. Josh, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you the best in 2020. Definitely rooting for you.
Thank you. You have a good one as well, and thanks so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
absolutely. All right.
Cool. 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 Cool.